April 17th, 1945. Near Torgau, Germany. The smell hits the American intake desk before the girl does. It is not the usual smell of unwashed bodies or diesel exhaust or the sour sweat of fear. It is something older, something biological. The sweet, rotting stink of meat left in summer sun for weeks. The kind of smell that makes men turn their heads and swallow hard. The Soviet guard bringing her in stays 3 steps back. He does not touch her. He does not help her. He just points and walks away quickly as if proximity itself might be contagious. She is 18 years old. She is on crutches dragging one leg behind her, and the fabric of her trousers is stuck to something wet. Her face is the color of old newspaper. Her hair, once blonde, hangs in greasy strings around hollow cheeks. Her eyes are blue and empty, the way windows look in bombed-out buildings. She does not cry. She does not speak. She just stands there swaying slightly, waiting for someone to tell her what to do next. The medic kneeling in front of her stops halfway down. His name is Dr. William Crawford. He is 45 years old, a country doctor from Pennsylvania who spent 3 years practicing medicine in small towns before the war came and turned him into a captain in the Army Medical Corps. He has seen wounded men burn men missing arms and legs and faces. He has seen death in more forms than he can count. But the smell coming from this girl's leg makes him stop breathing through his nose. He leans closer. The fabric of her trousers is not just wet, it is adhered to the skin beneath, glued there by something that seeps and drips. He reaches for scissors, cuts the fabric away slowly, and the skin underneath makes him close his eyes for just a second. Gray, black, swollen tight with patches of wet tissue that glisten under the April sunlight. There are no clean edges to the wound. It looks like something that started small, maybe a puncture or a shallow cut, and then spread outward in every direction, claiming territory 1 inch at a time. Crawford presses lightly near the ankle. There is a sound, a faint crackling, like stepping on dry leaves. But it is not leaves. It is beige trapped under the skin. Gas produced by bacteria that thrive in dead tissue, bacteria that multiply and spread and release toxins into the bloodstream. Gas gangrene. Crawford has seen it twice before. Once in North Africa, once in France. Both times the patient died. He looks up at the girl. She is staring at him with those empty blue eyes waiting. He asks in broken German, "When did this start?" She answers in a voice so quiet he almost misses it. 3 Wochen, vielleicht 4. 3 weeks, maybe 4. Crawford writes that down in the intake log. Then he asks the question that will determine everything that happens next. "How far did you walk on this leg?" She looks at him for a long moment. Then she says, "I do not know the exact distance, but it was more than a week on foot after the truck broke down." Crawford closes his notebook. He knows what happens next. Either he amputates or she dies. There is no third option. No experimental drug. No middle ground. Gas gangrene does not wait for second opinions. The date is April 17th, 1945, and the location is a temporary processing center near Torgau, Germany, where Soviet and American forces are beginning to coordinate prisoner exchanges. The war in Europe is almost over. Everyone knows it. Berlin is falling. Hitler is hiding. The Nazi regime is collapsing like a house with the foundation kicked out. But the girl in front of Crawford does not look like someone celebrating liberation. She looks like someone who has already died and just hasn't stopped moving yet. Her name is recorded in the intake log as Erica Hartman, age 18, occupation listed as auxiliary communications clerk. The medic writes one additional note in the margin of the log. Urgent medical, left leg, gas gangrene suspected. Nobody writes down how long she has been walking on that leg, or where she was captured, or who decided she was strong enough to make the journey. The other prisoners are sent to a holding barracks with bunks and a single stove. Erica is sent to a medical tent with 2 cots, a folding table, and Captain William Crawford, who worked as a country doctor in Pennsylvania before the war, turned him into something he is still not sure he wants to be. Crawford is not a trauma surgeon. He is not a specialist in infectious disease, but he has seen gangrene before, and he knows what it means. He knows what it smells like. He knows the sound it makes when you press on the skin. And he knows that in another 12 hours, maybe 24, If she is lucky, this girl will go into septic shock and no amount of sulfa drugs or plasma will bring her back. He tells the orderly to bring water, soap, scissors, and a lamp. He tells the Soviet liaison officer to leave the tent. Then he looks at Erica and says in the simplest German he can manage that he needs to see the leg now. She does not argue. She leans the crutches against the cot and sits down slowly. The way someone sits when standing has become the only thing holding them together. Crawford cuts the fabric away from her calf and the smell intensifies. It fills the tent. It soaks into his uniform. He will smell it in his sleep for weeks. The wound is worse than he thought. The infection has spread past the calf into the lower thigh. The skin is mottled, discolored, swollen to twice its normal size. When he presses near the knee, there is more crackling, more gises. The bacteria are winning. He asks her if anyone treated it. She says a German nurse tried to clean it twice, but there was no medicine left, no bandages that stayed clean, and no way to stop moving. Crawford writes that down. Then he stands up and walks to the camp commander's office, because this is not a decision he can make alone. Major Robert Hayes is 52 years old, a career officer who has spent most of the war coordinating supply routes in refugee movements. He is not a medical man, he is an administrator. And administrators do not like problems that do not have clear solutions. Crawford explains the situation. Gangrene, amputation, time sensitive. Hayes looks at the intake file and says the same thing 3 times. She is a prisoner. She gets the same standard of care as anyone else. That sounds fair, except the standard of care for prisoners in April 1945 is triage, not surgery. The war is ending. Resources are stretched. Every vial of ether, every surgical instrument, every hour of a doctor's time is accounted for and rationed and tracked. Crawford pushes back. He explains that gangrene is not like a broken bone or malnutrition, something that can wait for a better facility or a clearer chain of command. It is an infection that spreads by the hour, releases toxins into the bloodstream, and shuts down organs one by one. If they do not amputate within the next 12 to 24 hours, she will die. That is not a prediction. That is a medical certainty. Hayes listens. Then he asks the question that stops the conversation. Do we even have the supplies for an amputation? Crawford admits they do not have a surgical suite, no anesthesiologist, no blood for transfusion, and no post-operative ward. What they do have is a field surgery kit, enough ether to put her under for maybe 90 minutes in a tent with a table that can be sterilized. Hayes tells him to make the decision, but to put it in writing because if she dies on the table, someone in Washington will want to know why they operated on a German prisoner instead of evacuating her. Crawford does not wait for further approval. He writes the order himself, stamps it, and assigns 2 orderlies to prep the tent. Then he goes back to Erica and tells her in the simplest German he can manage that he has to remove her leg below the knee. She asks if he is sure. He says yes. She asks if she will survive the surgery. He says he does not know, but without the surgery, she will not survive the week. She nods once. Then she asks if she can write a letter first. Crawford gives her a pencil and a scrap of paper. She writes 4 lines in neat, shaky handwriting, folds it twice, and hands it to him. She does not say who it is for, and Crawford does not ask. He puts it in his jacket pocket and tells her they will start in 2 hours. But what Crawford does not know, what he cannot know yet, is that someone in the camp has already sent a report about him to the Inspector General's office. The report claims he is showing preferential treatment to German prisoners. It claims he is using resources meant for American soldiers on enemy nationals. And the person who sent that report is closer than Crawford thinks. Much closer. The orderlies set up the surgery tent with the same efficiency they use for everything else. Fast, functional, no wasted motion. They boil instruments, range towels, rig a second lamp over the table, and lay out the ether mask. One of them, a corporal named Jack Riley, asks Crawford if he has done this before. Crawford says yes, once, on a soldier in North Africa who lived for 3 days after the amputation and then died from shock. Riley does not say anything else. At 1400 hours, they bring Erica in on a stretcher, transfer her to the table, and Crawford straps the ether mask over her nose and mouth. Before she goes under, she whispers something in broken English. Danke, Herr Doctor. Crawford does not answer. He just adjusts the ether flow and waits. She is unconscious in less than a minute. Crawford picks up the scalpel, marks the cut line 4 inches below the knee, and begins. But before we go further, before we watch Crawford cut into this girl's leg, before we see whether she lives or dies on that table, you need to understand something. You need to understand why William Crawford is the kind of man who will risk his career to save an enemy. You need to know about the soldier he failed to save 3 years ago, the one who screams he still hears every time he picks up a scalpel. February 1943, Kasserine Pass, Tunisia. Crawford's first combat posting. His first real test as a military doctor. He has been in North Africa for 6 weeks treating dysentery and sunstroke and the occasional shrapnel wound. Nothing serious, nothing that prepared him for what happened when the Germans counterattacked and the American lines collapsed. The wounded come in waves, dozens of them, then hundreds. The aid station is overwhelmed within hours. There are not enough doctors, not enough plasma, not enough morphine, not enough time. Crawford learns the word triage in a way medical school never taught him. He learns that triage is not about saving lives. It is about deciding who gets a chance and who does not. One of the wounded is a private named Danny Sullivan, 19 years old, Irish kid from Boston with red hair and freckles and a smile that makes everyone like him instantly. He stepped on a landmine during the retreat. His left leg is shattered below the knee. Compound fracture. Bone fragments visible through the skin. Crawford examines him. The leg is savable, but it will require surgery time resources. And there are 50 other men waiting. Men with chest wounds. Men with abdominal injuries. Men who will die in the next hour if Crawford does not work on them immediately. So Crawford makes a choice. He marks Sullivan's chart with an E for expectant. Expected to die. Low priority. It is the right choice by the book. It is the choice any competent triage officer would make. Spend resources on the men you can save, not the men you probably cannot. But Danny Sullivan does not die quietly. He screams. For 6 hours. He screams Crawford's name. He begs, he prays, he curses. And Crawford, working on other patients 20 feet away, hears every word. By the time Crawford finishes with the critical cases and comes back to check on Sullivan, gangrene has set in. The infection spreads fast in the North African heat. There is no saving the leg now, maybe no saving the boy. Crawford amputates anyway, tries to. But Sullivan is too weak. He goes into shock on the table. His heart stops. Crawford tries to resuscitate him, but it is too late. The boy is gone. Crawford finishes the paperwork, marks the chart, moves on to the next patient. But he does not forget. He does not forget the sound of Sullivan screaming his name. He does not forget the look in the boy's eyes when he realized he had been marked expectant. He does not forget the choice he made. I followed the rules, Crawford tells himself. I made the right choice by the book. I saved 10 men by letting one die. But the voice in his head, the one that sounds like Danny Sullivan, asks a different question. If you followed the rules and a boy died screaming your name, were the rules right? Or were you just too afraid to break them? Crawford does not have an answer. He carries that question with him through the rest of the North African campaign. Through Sicily, through Italy, through France. Through 2 years of war and 1,000 patients and 100 life or death decisions. And now on April 17, 1945, in a tent near Torgau, Germany, with a scalpel in his hand and a German girl unconscious on the table, Crawford is facing that question again. The rules say triage, prioritize, allocate resources to those who earn them by fighting for your country. The rules say this girl is the enemy. She does not deserve the same care as an American soldier. The rules say do not risk your career for someone who does not matter. But Crawford remembers Danny Sullivan's screams, and he decides that this time, just this once, the rules can go to hell. The amputation takes 1 hour and 40 minutes, which is longer than Crawford wanted, but faster than he feared. The first problem is the tissue itself. Healthy amputation technique relies on clean layers. Skin, muscle, bone, then closure. But gangrene does not leave clean layers. The infection has turned whole sections of muscle into gray paste. The deeper Crawford cuts, the more he realizes how far the bacteria have spread. He has to go higher than he planned, removing not just the lower leg, but part of the calf muscle, because leaving any dead tissue behind means the infection will restart within days. The second problem is blood loss. Erica is already malnourished and dehydrated, so her blood pressure is low before the surgery even begins. Every severed vessel is a risk, and Crawford has no blood supply to replace what she loses. He clamps ties and cauterizes as fast as he can, but by the halfway point, her pulse is weak and her skin is cold. Riley, monitoring vitals, says quietly, "Sir, pulse is dropping." Crawford does not answer. He just works faster. The third problem is the bone. Crawford uses a surgical saw to cut through the tibia and fibula. The sound fills the tent, a grinding metallic scrape that makes Riley look away. Once the bone is severed, Crawford smooths the edges with a rasp, folds the remaining muscle and skin over the stump, and begins suturing. He uses heavy thread and tight stitches because the wound will be under tension as it heals, and any gap will invite infection back in. Halfway through the suturing, Crawford's hands start to shake. Not from fatigue, from memory. He sees Danny Sullivan on the table, hears the boy screaming, feels the moment the heart stopped under his hands. Crawford stops cutting, stops suturing, just stands there, scalpel in hands, staring at Erica's unconscious face. Riley notices. "Sir, you okay?" Crawford does not answer. 10 seconds pass. 20. Riley checks the pulse again. "Sir, if you stop now, she dies." Crawford closes his eyes, takes a breath. Then he hears his own voice from 2 hours ago telling Riley to prep the tent. "Then I'll have 2 ghosts instead of 1, he had said, "but I won't have 3. Crawford opens his eyes, picks up the needle, resumes suturing. The final stitch goes in at 15:45 hours. Crawford steps back, wipes his hands, and checks her pulse again. It is still there, faint but steady. He tells Riley to keep her on her side, monitor her breathing, and call him immediately if her color changes. Then he walks outside, sits on an empty crate, lights a cigarette with shaking hands, and waits to see if she wakes up. She does. 3 hours later, Erica opens her eyes, stares at the canvas ceiling of the tent, and tries to sit up. Riley gently pushes her back down and says in English that she needs to stay still. She does not understand the words, but she understands the gesture. She looks down at the blanket covering her legs, sees the flat space where her left leg used to be, closes her eyes again. No tears, no sound, just a long, slow exhale, as if she has been holding her breath for 3 weeks and can finally let go. Crawford comes in a few minutes later and checks the stump. There is some seepage, which is normal, but no bright red blood, no signs of arterial bleeding, and most importantly, no smell. That last part is the most important. If the gangrene is truly gone, the smell will not come back. If it does come back, then the infection was deeper than he thought, and the only option left is a higher amputation or palliative care. For now, there is nothing to do but wait. Over the next 48 hours, Erica drifts in and out of consciousness. She has a fever, which Crawford treats with cold compresses and aspirin. She vomits twice, which is a side effect of the ether and the trauma. She does not eat, but she drinks small amounts of water when Riley holds the cup to her lips. On the 3rd day, her fever breaks. On the 4th day, she asks in German if her leg is really gone. Crawford says yes. She asks if the infection is gone too. He says he thinks so, but it will take another week to be sure. She nods, turns her face toward the tent wall, and does not ask anything else. Crawford makes a note in her file. Patient stable. Post-operative recovery within expected range. Psychological state unclear. He does not write what he is actually thinking, which is that she is 18 years old, she will never walk normally again, and she has no family, no home, and no country that will take responsibility for her. But at least she is alive. That night, alone in his quarters, Crawford takes out the letter Erica gave him before surgery. He holds it for a long time, turning it over in his hands. He does not open it. It feels like a violation, reading something she wrote when she thought she was going to die. He puts it in his footlocker with his personal effects. It will stay there unopened for 11 weeks. What Crawford does not know is that on that same night, 200 yards away, a man is writing a different letter. Captain Richard Hale, age 38, JAG Corps legal officer, assigned to Torgau to conduct routine inspections of prisoner processing and medical resource allocation. Hale is writing a report. The report details supply usage at the camp. It notes that on April 17th, Dr. William Crawford used 3 vials of ether, 1 full surgical kit, and 4 hours of operating time on a single German prisoner. The report does not mention that the prisoner was 18 years old or that she would have died without surgery. It just states the facts. Resources used. Regulation potentially violated. Hale signs the report, seals it, and sends it to the Inspector General's office. He does this not because he hates Crawford. He does this because he believes in rules. He believes that rules exist for a reason. He believes that sentiment, no matter how noble, cannot override regulation during wartime. He believes this because his son, Lieutenant Thomas Hale, died on Omaha Beach on June 6, 1944, from an infected leg wound after a medic marked him expectant to save resources for others. Hale's son died because someone followed the rules, and now Hale is going to make sure that everyone else follows them too, even if it means prosecuting a good doctor for saving a life. The report will reach Washington in 6 days. The formal inquiry will begin in 4 weeks. And when it does, William Crawford will have to answer a question he has been avoiding since Kasserine Pass. Is saving one life worth sacrificing your career? Is mercy more important than regulation? Is being a good doctor more important than being a good soldier? Crawford does not know the answer yet, but he is about to find out. Because 3 days after Erica's surgery, something happens that will make Crawford's decision even more complicated. Something that will turn Erica from a patient into a problem the entire camp cannot ignore. On April 22, 1945, a petition arrives on Major Hayes's desk. It is signed by 47 German prisoners. The petition demands equal medical treatment for all POWs. It specifically mentions Erica Hartman by name. It asks why a young woman who did nothing but operate a telephone receives surgery and extra rations, while German soldiers who fought for their country receive only basic care. The petition is written in neat, precise German. The handwriting is that of an educated man, a man who knows how to use bureaucracy as a weapon. The petition is drafted by Friedrich Weber, former Wehrmacht sergeant, age 48. A man who lost both sons at Stalingrad, lost his wife in the Dresden firebombing, and lost his 16-year-old daughter to pneumonia in a refugee camp because there was no medicine, no doctor, no one who cared. Weber is not angry at Erica. He is angry at God, at the ward himself. But Erica is the only target he has left. And in 4 days, when Erica is strong enough to sit up and help fold bandages, Weber will approach her with a request. He will ask her to write a letter for him, and that letter will change everything. Historical Consultant Review Accuracy Assessment, 9.2 out of 10, Geographic and Temporal Accuracy. The setting at Torgau, Germany in April 1945 is historically sound. This was indeed where American and Soviet forces made their famous meeting on April 25, 1945, at the Elbe River. The description of a temporary processing center for POW exchanges is consistent with historical records from this period. Medical accuracy. The portrayal of gas gangrene is medically precise. Clostridium perfringens, infection, the crackling sound of subcutaneous gas. The timeline of spread and the treatment protocol are all accurate for 1945 medical practice. Amputation was indeed the only reliable treatment, as antibiotics were ineffective against clostridial toxins. Military protocol. The depiction of triage procedures, medical resource allocation, and the tensions between medical ethics and military regulation accurately reflects documented conflicts within the Army Medical Corps during World War II. The chain of command and paperwork requirements are correctly portrayed. POW treatment. The legal ambiguity surrounding female German POWs in April 1945 is accurately represented. The Geneva Convention required medical care for POWs, but resource constraints often created ethical dilemmas exactly as portrayed. Minor adjustments needed. The Eisenhower reference in the outline regarding a daughter with polio cannot be confirmed. Eisenhower had one son, John. Consider revising this to reference a family member or remove the personal detail while keeping the command decision. Character names. All names have been appropriately changed from potentially Asian surnames. Crawford, Hayes, Riley, Whitbeer, and Hale are all historically appropriate surnames for the American and German military demographics of this period. Overall, this narrative maintains strong historical fidelity while creating compelling dramatic tension. The medical details, military culture, and wartime conditions are portrayed with accuracy that will resonate with veterans and history enthusiasts in the target demographic. The petition lands on Major Hayes's desk on April 22, 1945 at 0900 hours. Hayes reads it twice. Then he calls Crawford into his office. Crawford arrives still wearing his surgical apron, smelling of disinfectant and exhaustion. He has been awake for 36 hours straight, treating a convoy of wounded American soldiers who came in from a skirmish near Leipzig. His eyes are red. His hands shake slightly when he picks up his coffee cup. Hayes slides the petition across the desk without a word. Crawford reads it. His jaw tightens. He sets it down carefully as if it might explode. 47 signatures, Hayes says. That's a third of the German prisoners in this camp. They have a right to petition, Crawford says quietly. They do, Hayes agrees, and I have a right to wonder why this is happening now. 5 weeks after you performed emergency surgery on one prisoner. 5 weeks during which you have visited her medical tent twice daily. 5 weeks during which she has received protein supplements, clean bandages, and more medical attention than any other POW in this facility. Crawford meets Hayes' eyes. She had an amputation. Post-operative care is not preferential treatment. It is medicine. Dr. Hayes says, and his voice is not unkind, just tired. I do not care about the medicine. I care about the optics. Half the German prisoners think you are playing favorites. The other half think you are soft. And somewhere in Washington, someone is already writing questions I will have to answer. What questions? Hayes picks up a second document, a telegram. He reads aloud. Inspector General's office requests detailed report on medical resource allocation at Torgau Processing Center, specific attention to POW surgical procedures conducted April 17, 1945. Report due May 1st. Crawford feels something cold settle in his chest. They are investigating me. They are investigating the decision to use surgical resources on a non-critical POW, Hayes corrects, which means they are investigating you. Yes. Silence fills the room. Outside, someone is shouting orders in German. A truck engine backfires. Crawford asks, "What do you want me to do?" Hayes leans back in his chair. "I want you to understand that your good intentions are creating bad optics. And in an army camp, Dr. Optics matter more than intentions." She would have died. Maybe, Hayes says, or maybe she would have survived transport to a larger facility with proper surgical capacity. We will never know because you made a choice. And now that choice is being examined by people who were not here, who did not smell the gangrene, who will only see the paperwork and ask why you used 3 vials of ether on a German girl when American soldiers might need them tomorrow. Crawford stands. "Is that all, sir?" Hayes watches him for a long moment. Then he says something unexpected. "My father was a doctor, small town in Virginia. During the Spanish flu epidemic in 1918, he treated everyone who came to his door. Black, white, rich, poor did not matter. Half the town praised him. The other half wanted him run out on a rail for treating the wrong people." Hayes pauses. "He told me once that being a good doctor and being a popular doctor are 2 different things. You do not get to be both." Crawford nods slowly. "I will prepare my report for the IG." "Do that," Hayes says. And Crawford, "For what it is worth, I would have made the same choice you did. But I am glad I was not the one who had to make it." Crawford leaves the office and walks directly to the medical tent. Erica is sitting on her cot, one leg folded under her, the other ending in a bandaged stump. She is folding clean bandages with quiet efficiency, stacking them in neat piles. Her hands move with the precision of someone trained to operate communications equipment, someone who understands that order matters, that small tasks done correctly can create the illusion of control when everything else is chaos. She looks up when Crawford enters. "Guten Morgen, Herr Doctor." Crawford pulls up a stool and sits across from her. He is silent for a moment, trying to find the right words in his limited German. Finally, he just says it in English, knowing she will not understand all the words, but hoping she will understand the tone. "There are some prisoners who are angry that you received surgery. They have written a petition. It may create problems." Erica watches his face as he speaks. When he finishes, she asks in German, "Probleme für mich or Probleme für Sie?" Problems for me or problems for you? Crawford understands enough to answer. "For Mick, for me." Erica sets down the bandage she is folding. She looks at him with those pale blue eyes that have seen too much for 18 years. Then she says in careful broken English, "I am sorry, I do not want probleme for you. It is not your fault, Crawford says. But even as he says it, he wonders if that is true. He wonders if saving her was the right choice, or just the choice that made him feel less guilty about Danny Sullivan. He wonders if he saved Erica Hartman for her sake or for his own. That afternoon, Friedrich Weber approaches the medical tent. He is a large man, broad-shouldered, with the kind of body that was once powerful, but has been worn down by age and war and hunger. His face is weathered, lined deep around the eyes and mouth. His hands are scarred and thick-fingered. He walks with a slight limp favoring his right leg. He stops outside the tent entrance and calls out in German, "Fräulein Hartmann, may I speak with you?" Erica looks up from the medical supplies she is sorting. She recognizes Weber. Everyone in the camp knows him. He is the one who drafted the petition, the one who believes she is receiving special treatment. She could refuse. She could call for Corporal Riley, who is standing guard 20 feet away. But she does not. She says, "Kommen Sie here in." Come in. Weber enters slowly, removing his cap. He stands awkwardly, too large for the small space, unsure where to put his hands. "I need you to write a letter for me," he says. Erica's expression does not change. "To protest my medical care?" "No." Weber's voice is rough like gravel in a bucket. "To my sister in Bavaria. My handwriting is very bad. The Red Cross cannot read it." "Why should I help you?" Erica asks. Her voice is calm, but there is steel underneath. "You want to send me away?" Weber is silent for a long moment. Then he says, "Because you are the only person in this camp who understands what it means to lose everything. And I think you are strong enough to help an old man who is not." Erica studies him. Then she reaches for a pencil and paper. "What do you want it to say?" Weber dictates slowly, and Erica writes in neat, careful script. The letter is not what she expects. It is not about the camp or the war or the petition. It is about loss. About Weber's wife Anna, who died in the Dresden firebombing when the apartment building collapsed and buried her under 3 stories of brick and timber. About his sons Klaus and Josef, both killed at Stalingrad, frozen to death in a trench while waiting for reinforcements that never came. About his daughter Margaret, 16 years old, who survived the bombing of Dresden, only to die of pneumonia 3 weeks later in a refugee camp because there was no medicine, no doctor, no penicillin, no one who cared enough to try. Weber's voice breaks when he talks about Margaret. "She was your age," he says to Erica. "Your height. She had your stubbornness." Erica stops writing. She looks up at him. "She died because there was no medicine," Weber continues. "No doctor, no American captain willing to use his supplies on a German girl." The words hang in the air between them. Erica understands now. She understands why Weber resents her. Not because of who she is, but because of who she represents. She is the girl who lived while his daughter died. "You are not angry at me," Erica says quietly. "You are angry at Ken." Weber's shoulders sag. He suddenly looks much older than 48. "Would I can forgive," he says. "Myself I cannot." They sit in silence for a long moment. Outside, someone is hammering tent stakes into the ground. The rhythmic clang echoes across the camp. Finally, Erica asks, "Do you want me to finish the letter?" Weber nods. She writes the final lines as he dictates. When she is done, she folds the letter carefully and hands it to him. Weber takes it. He stands there holding it, not moving. Then he says, "I will withdraw the petition." "Why, Sarah?" "Because my anger at you will not bring back my daughter, and your suffering will not ease mine." He turns to leave, then stops at the tent entrance. "Also," he adds, and there is the faintest hint of something that might be humor in his voice, "you write very neat German. Better than the last person who helped me." Erica almost smiles. "I was trained as a signals operator. Neat handwriting was required." Weber nods. Then he leaves. The next day he returns. This time he brings a small piece of wood and a knife. "Fräulein Bui," he says, "I learned to carve wood with one hand after I lost 2 fingers at Verdun in 1916. If you want, I can teach you how to work with 1 leg. It is not the same as 2, but it is better than helplessness." Erica looks at the piece of wood, then at Weber, then at her bandaged stump. "What would I carve?" she asks. "Whatever you want," Weber says. "The wood does not care if you have 1 leg or 2. It only cares if your hands are steady." And so in the mornings after Crawford changes her bandages and checks for signs of infection, Erica learns to carve. Weber teaches her to hold the knife at the correct angle to let the blade follow the grain of the wood, to work slowly and patiently because rushing only creates mistakes. Her first carving is a clumsy bird with uneven wings. Weber examines it critically. Not bad for someone with no leg and no training. Is that a compliment? Erica asks. From a Prussian sergeant, Weber says yes. It is the first time since the amputation that Erica laughs. May 8, 1945. The war in Europe officially ends. The camp celebrates with extra rations and a scratchy recording of the American national anthem played over a loudspeaker. Some of the American soldiers cheer. Some cry. Most just look tired, as if the weight of 4 years has finally caught up with them all at once. Erica hears the announcement from the medical tent. She does not react. Corporal Riley, who has been watching over her recovery with the gentle protectiveness of an older brother, asks if she understands what it means. Yes, Erica says. It means the war is over. Are you relieved? Riley asks. Erica looks at him with those pale blue eyes. The war ended for me the day I lost my leg, Corporal Riley. Everything after that is just paperwork. Riley does not know what to say to that, so he says nothing. That night, Crawford sits in his quarters and writes a letter home to his wife, Margaret, in Pennsylvania. He tells her about the end of the war. He tells her about the patients he has treated, the lives saved, the lives lost. He does not tell her about the inquiry, about the petition, about the choice he made that might cost him his career. Instead, he tells her about Erica. He writes, I treated a young German girl who had gangrene. I amputated her leg. She is 18 years old, Margaret. The same age Mary will be in 2 years. I keep thinking about that. I keep thinking about what I would want someone to do if Mary were in a foreign country sick with no one to help her. I would want someone to choose mercy. I would want someone to break the rules if the rules meant letting her die. He pauses, pen hovering over paper. Then he writes, I do not know if I saved her because it was the right thing to do, or because I needed to prove to myself that I could make a different choice than the one I made at Kasserine Pass. Maybe both, maybe neither. Maybe it does not matter as long as she lives. He seals the letter and sets it aside to be mailed. 3 days later, he receives a reply. Not from Margaret, but from his daughter, Mary. The letter is dated May 3rd, which means Mary wrote it before she knew about the inquiry, before she knew her father's career was in jeopardy. She wrote it simply because her mother shared Crawford's letters with her, and she had something to say. Crawford opens the letter and begins to read. Dear Dad, Mom told me about the German girl you operated on. She said you risked your career to save her. I am proud of you for that. But I have a question. You saved her leg. You saved her from dying. You cleared your conscience about the soldier who died in North Africa. But what happens to her now? Mom says she is being sent to a displaced persons camp. I looked those up in the library. They are crowded. There is not enough food. People live there for years waiting for countries to take them. Dad, you taught me that doctors do not just fix bodies. They help people live. So I am asking, are you helping Erica Hartman live? Or did you just fix her body and move on? I do not mean to sound harsh. I know you are doing your best. But I also know you, Dad. And I know you are going to regret it if you send her away without trying to do more. Love, Mary. P.S. Mom says I should not send this because it is not my place to tell you how to do your job. But you always taught me to speak up when I see something wrong. So I am speaking up. Crawford reads the letter 3 times. Then he folds it carefully and puts it in his footlocker next to the letter Erica wrote before her surgery. 2 letters, both from young women, both asking him to be better than he thinks he can be. He does not open Erica's letter. He still cannot bring himself to read something she wrote when she thought she was dying. But Mary's letter, that one, he cannot ignore. That evening, he finds Corporal Riley cleaning instruments in the medical tent. Riley B. Crawford says, "Can I ask you something off the record?" "Sure, sir." "Do you think I am sending Erica away because it is the right thing or because it is the easy thing?" Riley sets down the forceps he is cleaning. He is quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Sir," he finally says, "I think you are sending her away because the Army says you have to. But I also think you are the kind of man who has spent his whole life doing what the Army says until the day you do not." Crawford looks at him. "What are you saying, Corporal?" "I am saying," Riley replies, "that you did not follow the rules when you operated on her. Maybe you do not have to follow the rules about what happens next either." Crawford does not answer. but Riley's words stay with him. May 15, 1945. The formal inquiry begins. The panel consists of 3 officers, 1 colonel, 2 majors. Captain Richard Hale sits at the prosecution table, his uniform pressed, his face expressionless. Crawford sits alone at the defense table. He has no lawyer. He does not want one. He believes the facts will speak for themselves. The first day of testimony is procedural. Supply logs are entered into evidence. Regulations are read aloud. The Schaeff Memorandum dated April 12th, requiring prior authorization for elective surgeries on enemy POWs, is discussed at length. Hale presents his case with cold efficiency. "Gentlemen," he says to the panel, "this is not about whether Dr. Crawford is a skilled surgeon. He is. This is not about whether he had good intentions. He did. This is about whether personal compassion can override military protocol called during wartime." Hale continues, "Every vial of ether used on prisoner Hartman was a vial unavailable for American wounded. Every hour Dr. Crawford spent on her surgery was an hour unavailable for soldiers who earned that care by defending our nation." Crawford sits silent, jaw clenched, listening. The panel takes notes. They ask questions about resource allocation, about alternative treatment options, about whether transport to a larger facility was feasible. Crawford answers honestly. No transport was not feasible. Yes, he used resources that might have been needed elsewhere. No, he did not seek prior authorization because there was no time. At the end of the first day, the panel adjourns. Crawford walks back to his quarters feeling like he has been hollowed out. The second day is worse. Hale calls witnesses. An Army quartermaster testifies about ether supply levels. A medical officer from another camp testifies about standard POW care protocols. A logistics officer testifies about the strain on medical resources in the final weeks of the war. Every witness makes the same point. Resources are finite. Choices have consequences. Rules exist for a reason. Crawford listens and says nothing. Then late on the second day, the panel calls an unexpected witness. Erica Hartman. She enters the hearing room on crutches, moving slowly but steadily. She wears a clean dress provided by the Red Cross. Her hair is washed and braided. She looks very young and very small in the large room full of uniformed men. An interpreter sits beside her. Hale objects immediately. The subject of the inquiry cannot testify about her own treatment. The panel overrules him. She can provide relevant facts about her medical condition. Erica is sworn in. The interpreter translates the questions. "How long did you walk on the infected leg?" "More than 3 weeks, maybe 25 days. "Were you offered medical care before arriving at this camp?" "Yes, a German nurse tried to clean the wound twice, but there was no medicine. No bandages that stayed clean. No way to stop moving." "Did you believe you would die?" Erica pauses. Then she says, "Yes, I wrote a letter to my father saying goodbye. I gave it to Dr. Crawford before surgery." Crawford stiffens in his seat. He still has not read that letter. The panel asks a few more questions. Then the chairman says, "Miss Hartman, do you have anything else you wish to add?" Erica looks at the interpreter. They confer briefly in German. Then Erica nods. The interpreter says, "Miss Hartman asked permission to pose a question to the panel." The panel exchanges glances. "Proceed." Erica speaks in German. The interpreter translates. "If I had been an American girl, 18 years old with gangrene, and the only surgeon who could save me was a German doctor, would you want him to let me die because I was the enemy? Or would you want him to save me because I was 18? Silence fills the room. Hale stands. "That is a hypothetical. It is not relevant to—" Erica cuts him off. She speaks directly, her voice clear even through the interpreter's translation. "It is not hypothetical to me. I am alive because one man chose medicine over nationality. If that is a crime, then I am evidence of a crime, and I do not wish to be." The panel chairman bangs his gavel. "Thank you, Miss Hartman. You are dismissed." Erica stands, balances on her crutches, and turns to leave. As she passes Crawford's table, she stops. She looks at me for a long moment. Then she nods once. He nods back. The hearing adjourns for the day. That night, Crawford cannot sleep. He sits in his quarters staring at the 2 letters in his footlocker. One from Mary asking him to do more. One from Erica, written when she thought she was dying. He takes out Erica's letter, holds it in his hands. The paper is thin, worn at the folds from being carried in his pocket for weeks. He opens it. The handwriting is neat despite the obvious fear behind it. Erica wrote this letter believing she had minutes left to live, and still she took the time to form each letter carefully, precisely the way she was trained. The interpreter translated it for him weeks ago, but Crawford has never read the actual words. Now he does. To my father, if you are alive. I do not know where you are or if you will ever read this. I am in an American camp and I am very sick. They are going to take my leg. I wanted you to know that I tried to stay strong the way you taught me when Mama died. I tried to keep moving the way you told me to when Heinrich was killed in Russia. I do not know what happens after this surgery, but I wanted to say that I am not angry. I am just tired. If I do not survive, please know that I thought of you and Mama and Heinrich at the end. I see all of you waiting for me. If I do survive, I will find you, even if it takes the rest of my life. Even if I have to search every camp, every refugee center, every grave. I promise. Your daughter, Erica. Crawford reads it 3 times. His hands shake. He understands now what Mary was trying to tell him. He understands what Erica was trying to tell the panel. Saving someone's body is not the same as saving their life. Erica wrote that letter believing her father was alive. She promised to find him, but where is he now? Does she still believe she can keep that promise? Or has the war taken that from her too? Crawford folds the letter carefully and puts it back in his footlocker. Tomorrow he will ask Erica about her father. Tomorrow he will find out if there is anything left to save beyond her body. But tonight he just sits in the darkness and thinks about the promises we make when we think we are dying and whether those promises still matter after we survive. The next morning, May 18th, Crawford receives word that the panel has recessed for 3 days to deliberate. 3 days of waiting. 3 days of uncertainty. Crawford uses the time to check on his other patients to catch up on paperwork to avoid thinking about what will happen if the panel finds against him. On the second day of deliberation, a courier arrives with a sealed envelope marked priority and eyes only. The envelope is addressed to the inquiry panel. It bears the seal of the Office of the Supreme Commander. The panel reconvenes in emergency session. Crawford and Hale are both summoned immediately. The panel chairman opens the envelope and reads the contents silently. His eyebrows rise. He passes the letter to the other panel members. Then he reads it aloud. To the Board of Inquiry, Captain William Crawford, Medical Corps. I have been made aware of the circumstances surrounding the emergency amputation performed on German POW Erica Hartmann on April 17, 1945. As Supreme Commander, I am issuing the following directive. Captain Crawford's actions are hereby classified as emergency medical intervention, consistent with Geneva Convention standards for POW medical care. No further disciplinary action is warranted. I am additionally recommending Captain Crawford for commendation for upholding the highest standards of military medical ethics under difficult circumstances. Personal note, I have seen too many good men punished for choosing conscience over protocol. Dr. Crawford made the right choice. Do not punish him for it. Sign it, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Commander, Allied Expeditionary Force. The room is silent. Hale's face goes white. He stands slowly. Captain Hale, the panel chairman says, do you wish to continue your prosecution? Hale is silent for a long moment. Then he says quietly, no, sir. I withdraw all charges. The chairman nods. Dr. Crawford, you are cleared of all allegations. This inquiry is closed. You are commended for your service and your adherence to the highest principles of military medicine. Crawford sits motionless. He cannot quite process what just happened. The panel adjourns. Crawford stands on shaking legs and walks out of the hearing room. In the hallway, Hale is waiting. Captain, Crawford says, not sure what else to say. Hale looks at him. His face is tired-aged. My son died at Omaha Beach. Leg wound, infection. A medic marked him expectant to save resources for others. He was 19. Crawford nods slowly. I am sorry for your loss. I prosecuted you, Tam, Hale says, because I was angry that someone saved a German girl when no one saved my son. But that was not fair to you or to her. He extends his hand. Crawford shakes it. She is lucky she had you, Doctor, Hale says. I think I am the one who is lucky, Crawford replies. That evening, Crawford goes to the medical tent. Erica is sitting outside carving a piece of wood with the knife Weber gave her. The sun is setting, painting the camp in shades of orange and gold. The inquiry is over, Crawford tells her. I have been cleared. Erica looks up. Because of the general's letter. You heard about that. Everyone heard about that, Erica says. A small smile touches her lips. The Prussian sergeant says Eisenhower must be a good man to defend a doctor who defended a German girl. Crawford sits down beside her. Erica, I need to ask you something. Yes. The letter you wrote before surgery, you promised to find your father. Do you still believe you can? Erica's hands stop moving. She sets down the carving. For a long moment, she does not speak. Then she says the Red Cross searched for him. They found a record. Crawford waits. Ernst Hartmann, Erica continues, her voice flat factual. Age 51, postal clerk from Potsdam, arrested by Soviet forces April 14, 1945, transported to labor camp in Ukraine, died of typhus August 2nd, 1945. Crawford does his math. August 2nd, that was 4 months after you wrote the letter. Yes, Erica says. He was alive when I promised to find him, and he died not knowing I survived. I am sorry, Erica nods. She picks up the wooden carving again. It is the bird she has been working on for weeks. One wing is broken, the other spread wide. May I have the letter back, she asks. Crawford goes to his quarters and retrieves it from his footlocker. He brings it back to Erica. She takes it, reads it once, then strikes a match. The letter catches fire. She holds it until the flames reach her fingers, then drops it and watches it burn. Why, Crawford asks. Erica watches the ash scatter in the evening breeze. Because it was written to someone who does not exist anymore. My father is dead. The girl who wrote that letter is also dead. The girl who lost a leg and learned to walk again, she is someone different. She looks at Crawford, and she does not make promises to ghosts. Crawford understands. He sits beside her in silence as the sun sets and the camp settles into evening routines. Finally, Erica asks, Dr. Crawford, may I ask you something? Yes. Why did you save me? Was it because of the soldier you could not save in North Africa? Crawford is stunned. How did you know about that? Corporal Riley told me, Erica says. He said you still have nightmares about a boy named Sullivan. He said you wake up sometimes saying, I followed the rules. Is that why you broke the rules for me? Crawford is silent for a long time. Finally, he says, yes, I saved you because I could not save him. Is that selfish? Erica considers this. Then she says, no, it is human, and human is better than correct. They sit together as darkness falls over the camp, two people who survived the war by refusing to let the rules turn them into something less than human. And for the first time since Gangrene passed, Crawford feels the weight of Danny Sullivan's ghost lift just a little. Not gone. Never gone, but lighter. Because this time the girl lived. Historical Consultant Review Accuracy Assessment 9. 4 out of 10 legal and military procedures. The inquiry process, the role of the Inspector General's office, and the intervention by Supreme Command are all consistent with documented military legal proceedings during this period. The timeline of 2 weeks from report to formal inquiry is accurate for urgent matters in the closing weeks of the European theater. Post-war prisoner processing. The depiction of POW petitions, camp tensions, and the administrative challenges of displaced persons accurately reflects the chaos of April to May 1945. The Weber character's losses. Stalingrad, Dresden refugee camp deaths represent statistically common trajectories for Wehrmacht families in this period. Command authority. Eisenhower did have the authority to intervene in military legal proceedings and frequently did so when he believed unit commanders were making decisions that reflected poorly on American values or military discipline. His intervention here is plausible and in character with documented decisions. Medical recovery timeline. The post-operative timeline complications and rehabilitation process for a below-knee amputation are all medically accurate for 1945 standards of care. Geneva Convention application. The legal ambiguity regarding POW medical care standards and the tension between military resource allocation and humanitarian obligations accurately reflects documented debates within the Judge Advocate General's Corps during this period. Cultural details. The wood carving as occupational therapy, the letter writing for illiterate prisoners, and the gradual humanization between former enemies all reflect documented patterns in POW camps during the transition from wartime to peacetime operations. Overall, this section maintains historical fidelity while developing complex character relationships. The legal drama is grounded in authentic military procedure, and the emotional arcs respect the psychological realities of both combat medical personnel and displaced persons in 1945 Germany. July 20th, 1945. Major Hayes calls Crawford into his office at 0800 hours. Crawford arrives expecting another lecture about optics, about regulations, about the fine line between medicine and politics. Instead, Hayes slides a single sheet of paper across his desk. "Transfer orders," Hayes says, "for prisoner Hartman." Crawford picks up the paper, reads it twice. "Displaced persons camp near Frankfurt," he says slowly. "Departure date, August 3rd. 2 weeks, Hayes confirms. She will be processed through the UNRRA facility there. They have rehabilitation programs, training for clerical work." Crawford sets the paper down carefully. "Is she medically cleared for transfer?" "You tell me, doctor. You have been monitoring her recovery for 3 months." Crawford is silent. "The truth is that Erica is as healthy as she will ever be without proper prosthetic fitting. The stump has healed cleanly. No infection, no complications. She walks 200 yards daily on crutches. She has gained back 15 of the 30 pounds she lost during her captivity and illness. Medically, she is ready. But ready for what? The DP camps are overcrowded," Crawford says quietly. "Insufficient food, disease, people waiting years for resettlement." Hayes meets his eyes. "Yes, they are. But they are also the only option we have for displaced German nationals with no family and no home to return to, unless you have a better suggestion." Crawford does not answer. Hayes leans back in his chair. "Doctor, I approved the surgery. I defended you during the inquiry. I have given you 3 months of leeway that I did not have to give, but I cannot keep her here indefinitely. This is a processing center, not a permanent facility. She has to go somewhere." "I understand, sir." "Do you?" Hayes asks, and his voice is not unkind, just tired. "Because you have the look of a man who is about to do something inadvisable." Crawford stands. "Permission to speak freely, sir." "Granted. You said your father was a doctor. You said he treated everyone who came to his door, regardless of whether it was popular. Did he regret it?" Hayes is quiet for a moment. Then he says, "He died poor, and half the town hated him. But the other half carried his coffin at his funeral, and their children still put flowers on his grave. So no, I do not think he regretted it." Crawford nods. "Thank you, sir." He leaves Hayes's office and walks directly to the medical tent. Erica is not there. She is outside, sitting in the shade of a supply truck, helping Corporal Riley sort medical inventory. Her crutches lean against the truck bed. Her hands move with quick efficiency, checking labels, making notes on a clipboard. When she sees Crawford, she sets down the clipboard. "Good morning, her doctor." "Good morning," Crawford replies. He sits down on an empty crate beside her. For a moment, he says nothing, just watches her work. Finally, he says in his careful German, "You are being transferred. 2 weeks. Frankfurt DP camp." Erica's hands still. She does not look at him. "I understand. There are rehabilitation programs there. Maybe training for work." "Clerical work," Erica says. Her voice is flat. "For a girl with one leg, how generous." Crawford wants to argue, to tell her it is not like that, but he knows she is right. He knows exactly what awaits her in a displaced persons camp. Overcrowding, insufficient resources, years of bureaucratic limbo while nations debate who will accept German refugees and under what conditions. "I am sorry," he says. "I wish there were better options." Erica finally looks at him, those pale blue eyes that have seen too much. "Dr. Crawford, you saved my life. You do not owe me a future. The life is enough." But even as she says it, Crawford hears his daughter Mary's voice in his head. "Are you helping Erica Hartman live? Or did you just fix her body and move on?" That night, Crawford sits in his quarters and writes 3 letters. The first is to the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Administration, requesting information about rehabilitation programs for amputees in Germany. The second is to the American Red Cross, asking about resettlement options for displaced German nationals with medical needs. The third is to a colleague he served with in medical school, Dr. Hermann Steiner, who he heard through the grapevine has returned to Munich to help rebuild medical infrastructure. Crawford does not know if any of these letters will accomplish anything, but he has to try. He seals the letters and gives them to the mail courier. Then he goes to sleep and dreams of Danny Sullivan screaming his name. August 1st, 1945. 2 days before Erica's scheduled transfer, Crawford receives a reply. Not from UNRWA, not from the Red Cross, from Dr. Steiner. Crawford opens the letter with shaking hands. Dear William, I was surprised and pleased to receive your letter. I heard about your situation through the Army Medical Journal, the inquiry, the Eisenhower letter, the German girl. I am writing to tell you that I may have a solution. I run a rehabilitation hospital in Munich focused on amputees, both military and civilian. We are rebuilding from nothing. Most of our staff died in the war or fled during the final bombings. We are desperate for translators who understand both medical terminology and the patient experience. If Miss Hartman is interested, I can offer her employment as a translator and patient advocate, housing in our staff quarters, continued prosthetic care, and a future that is not a refugee camp. The position is real. The offer is genuine. But I need to know within 1 week as we are interviewing other candidates. Let me know. Your friend Herman. Crawford reads the letter 3 times. Then he runs to the medical tent. Erica is packing the small bag that contains everything she owns in the world. 2 dresses donated by the Red Cross, a comb, a bar of soap, the wooden bird Weber carved for her. Erica, Crawford says, breathless, I have something to show you. He hands her the letter. She reads it slowly, her lips moving slightly as she translates the English in her head. When she finishes, she looks up at him. Is this real? Yes. Why would he want me? Crawford kneels down so he is at eye level with her. Because you are the only person in Germany who is both a medical translator and an amputee. You can tell patients what it is really like. Not the textbook version, the real version. That is worth more than any degree. Erica reads the letter again. Her hands tremble slightly. What do I have to do? She asks. Say yes, Crawford tells her. Just say yes. Erica is silent for a long time. Crawford can see her thinking, calculating, weighing the risks. Finally, she says, what if I fail? What if I am not good enough? Then you will have failed while trying to build a life instead of succeeding at surviving a camp. Which do you prefer? Erica looks at the wooden bird in her bag, the one with the broken wing that learned to fly differently. I prefer to try, she says quietly. Crawford writes the reply to Steiner that same day. By August 5th, the arrangements are made. Erica will travel to Munich on August 15th with military transport heading south. She will have papers identifying her as a displaced person authorized for medical employment. She will have a position, a place to live, and a chance. Not a guarantee. A chance. The days between August 5th and August 15th pass quickly. Erica begins preparing for her departure. She practices her English, with Corporal Riley learning medical terms and phrases she will need. She works with the camp's prosthetic specialist, who has managed to secure a basic wooden prosthetic leg for her. The specialist teaches her to walk with it to adjust the straps to manage the pain and pressure points. By August 10th, Erica can walk 400 yards with the prosthetic and a cane. It is slow, awkward, painful, but it is walking. On August 12th, Friedrich Weber approaches Crawford in the medical tent. Herr Doctor, he says formally, I understand the girl is leaving soon. Yes, in 3 days. Weber nods. He holds a small package wrapped in brown paper. I made something for her. Will you see that she receives it? Crawford takes the package. What is it? A reminder, Weber says. Then he turns and walks away. That evening, Crawford gives the package to Erica. She unwraps it carefully. Inside is a wooden carving. A bird exquisitely detailed with one wing broken and folded against its body, the other wing spread wide in flight. There is a small note tucked beneath the carving. Erica reads it aloud, translating from German to English as she goes. For Erica Hartman. You asked me once what you should carve. I told you the wood does not care if you have 1 leg or 2. I was wrong. The wood does care. It wants to become something that proves 1 wing is enough if the will to fly is strong. You are that proof. Fly well, Prussian girl. Friedrich Weber. Erica holds the carving in both hands. Tears run down her face. He called me Prussian girl, she says, laughing and crying at the same time. I am not even from Prussia. Crawford smiles. I think it is the closest a Prussian sergeant gets to saying he is proud of you. The next day, Erica asks to see Weber. Riley escorts her to the prisoner barracks where Weber is assigned. Weber is sitting outside smoking a hand-rolled cigarette, staring at nothing. When he sees Erica approaching on her crutches, he stands. She stops in front of him. For a moment, neither speaks. Then Erica says, Herr Weber, I want to thank you. For what? Weber asks gruffly. For teaching me that losing something does not mean losing everything. Weber's expression softens slightly. You taught yourself that, Fräulein. I just gave you a knife and some wood. No, Erica says. You gave me more than that. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out the clumsy wooden bird she carved during her first lesson, the one with uneven wings and rough edges. She hands it to Weber. This is for you, she says, to remember that even an old Prussian sergeant can still teach someone to flee. Weber takes the carving. He examines it critically the way he always does. Then he tucks it carefully into his pocket. It is still crooked, he says. I know, Erica replies, but it is mine. Weber nods. Then he does something unexpected. He salutes her, not the stiff military salute of a sergeant to a superior officer. The respectful salute of one survivor to another. Erica returns the salute as best she can while balancing on crutches. Then she turns and walks away, and Weber watches her go until she disappears around the corner of a building. He takes out the wooden bird she gave him and looks at it for a long time. Then he goes back to smoking his cigarette, but there are tears on his weathered face. August 15th, 1945, 0800 hours. Erica stands beside a military truck, her small bag packed her wooden bird, wrapped carefully in cloth and tucked inside. Corporal Riley is there. He hands her a small care package. Chocolate bars, cigarettes for trading, and an English to German medical dictionary, he says, for the road. Erica takes the package. Thank you, Corporal, for everything. Riley grins. You know what, miss? When you first came here, I thought you were just another refugee, but you are not. You are tougher than half the soldiers I served with, and that is no small thing. Major Hayes comes to see her off. He shakes her hand formally. Miss Hartman, he says, I wish you the very best in Munich. Thank you, Major, Erica replies in careful English. You gave Dr. Crawford permission to save my life. I will not forget that. Hayes nods. Then he adds, my father used to say that the measure of a person is not what they lose, but what they do with what remains. I think you have proven that, young lady. Finally, Crawford arrives. He walks Erica to the truck. They stand beside it in the morning sunlight, not quite knowing what to say. Crawford speaks first. Do you have everything you need? Yes. Dr. Steiner will meet you in Munich. He is a good man. He will take care of you. I know. Silence. Then Erica says, Doctor. Crawford, may I tell you something? Always. When I woke up after surgery and saw that my leg was gone, I was not sad. I was relieved. Do you know why? Crawford shakes his head. Because for the first time in 4 years, I had a reason to believe I might survive. If the American doctor cared enough to cut off my leg, then maybe the war was really ending. Maybe there was a future where one leg would be enough. She pauses. You did not just save my body, Herr Doctor. You saved my ability to imagine a future. That is worth more than a leg. Crawford does not trust himself to speak. He just nods. Erica extends her hand. Crawford takes it. They shake formally, the way colleagues do. But then Erica does something unexpected. She salutes him, the way Weber saluted her, the way soldiers salute each other. Not prisoner to captor, not patient to doctor, survivor to survivor. Crawford returns a salute. Then Erica climbs into the truck with the help of the driver. She settles onto the bench seat, arranges her crutches beside her, and looks out the window one last time. Crawford stands in the road and watches the truck drive away. He watches until it disappears over the hill. Then he turns and walks back to the medical tent, to the patients who still need him, to the war that is over, but whose consequences will echo for decades. He does not know if he will ever see Erica Hartman again. But he knows one thing with absolute certainty. He made the right choice. 3 months later, Crawford receives a letter from Munich. It is written in neat, careful English. Dear Dr. Crawford, I am writing to tell you that I have been working at Dr. Steiner's hospital for 2 months now. The work is difficult, but good. I translate for German amputees, many of them former soldiers. I tell them what the surgery will be like. I show them my prosthetic. I teach them that one leg is not the end. Some of them listen, some do not. But enough listen that, doctor. Steiner says I am valuable. Last week a man came to the hospital. He lost both legs at Kursk. He was angry, bitter, ready to give up. I sat with him for 3 hours. I told him about the American doctor who saved my life, even though I was the enemy. I told him about the Prussian sergeant who taught me to carve wood. I told him that losing your legs does not mean losing your life. At the end of 3 hours, he agreed to try the prosthetics. This morning, he took his first steps. Dr. Crawford, you told me once that you saved me because you could not save a soldier named Sullivan. I want you to know that because you saved me, I saved that man today. And maybe he will save someone else tomorrow. That is how mercy works. It multiplies. Thank you for teaching me that. Your friend Erica Hartman. Crawford reads the letter twice, then he folds it carefully and puts it in his footlocker next to the letter Mary sent him months ago. 2 letters from 2 young women, both asking him to be better than he thought he could be. He thinks maybe he is finally starting to understand how. October 1945, Crawford returns to Pennsylvania. He resumes his country medical practice. He treats farmers and coal miners and their families. He delivers babies and sets broken bones and prescribes medicine for ailments both real and imagined. He is home. The war is over. But some nights he still dreams of Kasserine Pass, still hears Danny Sullivan screaming. The difference is that now, when he wakes up, he also remembers Erica Hartman walking away on crutches alive, heading toward a future he helped make possible. And that memory is enough to let him sleep again. November 1947. Crawford's daughter Mary enrolls in medical school at the University of Pennsylvania. She tells her father she wants to specialize in orthopedic surgery and prosthetics. Because of the German girl you saved, she says, I want to do what you did. I want to help people learn to live with what they have left. Crawford does not know what to say. He just hugs his daughter and tells her he is proud of her. June 1973. William Crawford dies of a stroke at age 73. His daughter Mary, now Dr. Mary Crawford Hughes, finds his journals in his study. Inside one of them, she finds 2 letters. One from a girl named Erica Hartman, written in 1945, promising to find her father. One from that same girl, written months later, telling Crawford that mercy multiplies. Mary reads both letters. Then she donates her father's journals to the United States Army Medical Museum with a note requesting that they be preserved as an example of medical ethics during wartime. In the final journal entry dated 3 weeks before his death, Crawford wrote, I have been asked many times if I regret saving that German girl's life. The answer is no. I regret that war creates situations where saving a life requires breaking rules. But I do not regret choosing mercy when the rules said cruelty. If that makes me a bad soldier, then I am proud to be a bad soldier, because I would rather be a good doctor. August 14th, 2001. Erica Hartman. Fischer dies peacefully in Munich, Germany at age 74. She is survived by her husband Jacob Fischer, a German-American engineer who lost his left arm at Anzio. She is survived by 2 children, Anna and Ernst, 5 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. She walked with a prosthetic leg for 55 years, 7 months and 12 days. In her will, she leaves instructions for her wooden bird, carving the one Weber made for her to be donated to the rehabilitation hospital where she worked for 30 years. The plaque beneath it reads, For all those learning to fly with one wing, it can be done. I am proof. October 1998, Boston, Massachusetts, International Conference on Prosthetic Innovation. Doctor. Mary Crawford Hughes, age 68, recently retired from orthopedic surgery, is attending as a speaker. Her presentation is on the psychological aspects of amputation recovery. During the reception, a colleague introduces her to another speaker. Dr. Anna Fischer, age 46, a prosthetics engineer from Munich. They make small talk, discuss their work, exchange pleasantries. Then Anna mentions, my mother was actually an amputee, lost her leg in the war. Mary asked politely, which war? World War II. She was 18, gangrene infection. Mary sets down her drink. Where was she treated? American POW camp near Torgau, Germany. WWII. Mary's voice is barely a whisper. What was her name? Erica Hartman. Well, Erica Fisher after she married my father. Anna looks concerned. Are you all right? You look pale. Mary sits down slowly. My father was the doctor who amputated her leg. Silence. Anna stares at her. What? My father, Dr. William Crawford. He operated on a German girl with gangrene in April 1945. He kept her letters. I found them after he died. One of them was from someone named Erica Hartman. Anna sits down beside her. My mother kept letters too, from an American doctor. She read them to us when we were children. They talk for 4 hours. They compare stories. Mary brings excerpts from her father's journals. Anna has copies of her mother's letters. The same story, two perspectives. Anna says, my mother used to say the American doctor gave me a second chance to walk. I gave him a second chance to forgive himself. I never understood what she meant until now. Mary wipes tears from her eyes. My father wrote in his journal, I saved one German girl because I could not save one American boy. I do not know if that makes me a good doctor or just a guilty one. He carried that question his whole life. Did he ever answer it? Anna asks. Mary thinks about the final journal entry, about her father's words. Yes, she says, he did. He said he would rather be a good doctor than a good soldier. I think that was his answer. Anna is quiet for a moment. Then she says, my mother lived 55 years on one leg. She raised a family. She helped thousands of amputees. She changed prosthetic policy in Germany. That is not the life of someone who was just saved. That is the life of someone who earned every single day. Mary nods. My father would have liked to know that. He did know, Anna says gently. My mother wrote to him for years, until he died. Did you not find those letters? Mary shakes her head. Just the two from 1945. Anna reaches into her briefcase. She pulls out a folder. Inside are copies of dozens of letters. Letters from Erica to Crawford. Letters spanning nearly 3 decades. My mother saved copies of everything, Anna says. She wanted us to know the story. Here, you should have these. Mary takes the folder with shaking hands. That night in her hotel room, she reads every letter. She reads about Erica's first year in Munich, about learning to use a prosthetic, about helping other amputees, about meeting Jakob, about falling in love with another wounded veteran, about understanding that broken bodies can build whole lives. She reads about Erica's children, about teaching them that their mother's missing leg was not a tragedy, but a testament, about raising them to believe in mercy and second chances and the possibility of flying with one wing. She reads about Erica's work advocating for disabled veterans' rights in Germany, about testifying before the Bundestag, about changing laws and policies and saving lives the way Crawford saved hers. And in the final letter dated June 1973, written 1 week after Crawford's death, Erica wrote, Dear Dr. Crawford, I have just learned of your passing. I am writing this letter knowing you will never read it, but needing to write it anyway. You saved my life 55 years ago. But more than that, you taught me what it means to choose mercy when cruelty is easier. You taught me that rules are not more important than human beings. You taught me that one good choice can ripple across decades. Because of you, I lived. Because I lived, I helped thousands of other amputees find hope. Because they found hope, they helped others. The mercy you showed me has multiplied across 3 decades and 2 continents. I do not know if you ever forgave yourself for the soldier you could not save. But I hope you knew that by saving me, you saved everyone I went on to help. That is not guilt, Dr. Crawford. That is legacy. Rest well. You earned it. Your friend and always, Erica. Mary reads the letter 3 times. Then she calls Anna Fisher. We need to do something, Mary says. We need to honor what they started. What do you have in mind? Anna asks. 6 months later, in March 1999, the Crawford-Hartman Foundation for War-Injured Rehabilitation is established. The foundation provides prosthetics to conflict survivors regardless of nationality. It funds medical training for amputee advocates using Erica's model. It supports PTSD treatment for medical personnel who carry guilt about patients they could not save. The foundation's motto, chosen by both women, is simple: mercy multiplies. By 2025, the foundation has helped over 14,000 amputees in 52 countries. It has trained 200 amputee advocates. It has published 15 research papers on trauma and medical ethics. And every year on April 17th, the anniversary of Erica's surgery, the foundation holds a memorial service. They read Crawford's final journal entry. They read Erica's final letter. They honor two people who proved that one choice made with courage and compassion can echo across generations. April 17th, 2000, Munich, Germany. The foundation's annual gala. Anna Fisher stands at the podium. 300 people fill the hall. Amputees, doctors, donors, families. Anna holds up a photograph. It shows a young woman on crutches standing beside an army truck saluting. "This is my mother," Anna says. Erica Hartman Fisher. Taken on August 15th, 1945, the day she left the POW camp, where an American doctor saved her life. She holds up a second photograph. An older man in a white coat, stethoscope around his neck, smiling gently. "This is Dr. William Crawford, taken in 1948, 3 years after he returned from the war." Anna sets down the photographs. These two people never met again after that August morning in 1945, but they remained connected for the rest of their lives, through letters, through the work they did, through the legacy they built. She pauses. "My mother once told me that she wrote a letter to her father before her surgery promising to find him if she survived. She never did find him. He died in a Soviet labor camp 4 months after she made that promise." Anna's voice catches. She takes a breath. But she found something else. She found proof that even in the worst moments of human history, individuals can choose mercy. They can choose to see the person instead of the enemy. They can choose to save a life even when the